Welcome back to the Financially Simple podcast and now video shoot. We're actually streaming this live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, believe it or not, which goes over in Twitter. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful Thursday morning. How are you, my friend? Mr. David Kent is joining me today.
I'm doing great, Justin. I'm richly blessed.
There we go. I've been saying recently that I'm greatly blessed and highly favored. The sun came up today in East Tennessee, and man, it is absolutely beautiful outside.
It really is.
Outside?
Nice to see the spring weather coming out, and hopefully we'll all be able to get back to somewhat of a normal life again soon. And certainly the earth, yesterday was Earth Day, and the earth is coming back alive again, and boy, it's a great time of the year.
It is. It is. So for those of you who are following along on our live system through Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope, or you're following along on the Financially Simple podcast that you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, it's pretty much everywhere. David and I have been dealing with relaunching our businesses. And, we're dealing with an opportunistic time in our lives. Some people say a troublesome time. I don't view things as troublesome. Yeah, we have some hard times right now, but there's a lot of opportunity. If you just look around and those individuals and those business owners, if you will look out and see the opportunity which abounds and how you can move and maneuver yourself in your business through these times, you can come out of this season that we're in, the short season that we're in right now in our country and in the globe for that matter, and be so much better advanced in your business on where you want to go. I mean, it's like a good hard reset. So David Kent joins me. As you heard me speak so far, David is one of the colleagues here with Heritage Business Advisors. You can read about his resume at heritagebusinessadvisors.com. As David Kent's resume is on there. But David, you and I have been covering this relaunching idea, and we talked about turnaround. We talked about 10 steps we can deal with for business owners on how to relaunch their business. But we want to today deal with the strategic planning process. So in your words, what is strategic planning?
Well, really, it's the nuts and bolts of business. It's really the organized approach to make sure that you're covering all of the important areas within the business and making sure that it's healthy and that it has the opportunity for the greatest amount of growth in the future. So it's really the foundational building blocks of the business. And it's important to note, Justin, that, as we go through this, most businesses are somewhere within a different phase within the planning process. So some are beginning at the very start, and some are well on their way as they go through the process. So keep that in mind as we're going through it.
So strategic planning is not our particular creation. Now, we've morphed it for the small business world, but strategic planning has been around a while, David. I've seen it through like Mercer Advisors, one of the most popular large company advisory firms in the country, in the world for that matter. Deloitte, for example, some of these other big firms, they try to center business departments, for example. Let's say you have the planning department, leadership department, finance department, et cetera, to try to figure out how to move their department through the year. But for small business owners, those of us who produce less than 10 million in revenue per year, oftentimes we don't have the manpower to do a full-on bore book style, a very academic strategic process. So what you and I have been able to whittle down that we walk candidly all of our clients through, especially this time of the year, is a process that the business owner, who is often busy, we're all the time chasing our tails, it feels like, whenever we're in business, when life is happening. But we've been able to take and streamline this down to a process that the average business owner can look into the year and take bite sizes. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? That's the old adage. So we've been able to boil this down into little steps that a business owner can take. So as we go through this process today, friends, David's going to kind of teach us through. Please realize this is the exact same process we walk our clients through and we hold them accountable to. And we wanted to come on today and share this information with you, business owners who perhaps you're still at home like you were last week watching us in your pajama pants. Like a few people even text me and said, Justin, I heard you say that. Yes, we were in our pajamas. We weren't eating popcorn, but we were in our pajamas still early in the morning. Perhaps that's you. I want you to listen today as David talks and teaches us through this process, the 8 or 9 steps in the process that you and I as business owners can think about. Grab a pen and paper handy and start taking some notes. And you're getting the same information. Now, it's not customized to your business, but you're getting the same information that our clients pay us to help them extract out of them, and then to hold them accountable, right? So you're going to hear a first class coach today who works with a ton of our business owners, walk them through this process. So David, I'm going to let you kind of walk me through this. And as we go through this, if I have a question, I may pause you a little bit, but I'm going to let you walk us and kind of control the narrative today versus me doing this. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So, as I mentioned, everyone's at a different phase within this planning process, but I'm going to begin at the very start. So this would be for new businesses that are starting the process, or businesses that maybe have been around a long time, but they're just now starting the planning process. And it all begins with the values of the business. And simply, we're just trying to identify the client's core values. Why are you in business? What is so important to your values that you want to make sure become a part of the culture of the business. And as we identify your core values, we want to then share those values with your current employees and receive their buy-in. So that's the very first step to the planning process. And once you know what is so important to the company, the values of the company, then you begin to craft the vision and the mission.
So David, let me pause you for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Values, values are one of those things that many business owners, myself included, don't like to be all touchy-feely and things. I'm going to put you on the spot and see if I did my job well enough. Do you know a couple of the values that our company has, for example?
Yeah, well, we're a faith-based organization. Obviously, we want to try to bring a faith-based approach to financial planning and to business planning. And the opportunity to treat people well and treat them right, and do things the right way. So those are a couple of our core values that we have here that really emanates through the whole organization.
So we see values happen on a regular basis in big companies. We speak of faith-based. I'm thinking of Chick-fil-A and what they've been able to do through their faith-based and impact the whole country. Same thing with, is it Hobby Lobby? They actually changed legislation for a lot of good people in the country because of their values, but not just faith-based. We also have values of one of my favorites that my dad taught me years ago. We were walking through the woods on an old country day, on an old sand hill in the country on a hot summer day, and there was a box turtle, a terrapin, so to speak, turned upside down. He reached over and he said, "Son, if you ever see a turtle in the back, turn the turtle over." And so one of my values is, if you see something that you need to do it. And so we try to teach those type of values. So values are not only like the touchy-feely things, this actually can be the practical side of things, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's how you do your business every day. It's how you treat people, your employees, your clients, your vendors, everyone that was within the organization and outside the organization that are all key stakeholders within the business.
One of the things, and I'll get off of this, but just another example of how values can work is, again, friends, you don't have to be touchy-feely. Emily and I like watching this show called NCIS, right? NCIS, it's a show on television with it's a Navy criminal investigating unit, and there's this guy named Gibbs on there, and Gibbs has these rules. He has these rules that everybody kind of knows about and they follow, and those are his values. That's how he operates his day-to-day approach. So as we move from values, David, we realize it's basically just how we believe, how we operate, but we need to let that permeate and move throughout the entire team so they're regularly spoken and understood. Is that a way that we can kind of wrap that up?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to say that, we don't change our values. This is one of the things, these are core values of the business that do not change. So as we go through the annual process, we don't question our values. So that's something that's very important as you begin your business, to really identify the values, because that's going to emanate through the business in all the years that you conduct yourself.
So after we go through the values, you mentioned mission or vision. Well, talk me through those, what those particularly are.
Okay, so next is vision. So vision really is, now that we know what our values are, how we want to conduct our business, where do we want this business to go? How do we want it to affect the world? How do we want it to go out? The services that we provide, how we want to provide the services, and what is our long-range goal for this business? And then the mission is really more, how are we going to accomplish that? How are we going to accomplish reaching that vision? So that's kind of the breakdown of that. And there's a process that we go through for both vision and mission. But it's really, the crux of it is what we want to get accomplished and how we're going to accomplish it.
Perhaps the most earmarked vision mission that I've ever can remember was Microsoft, right? They said we want to have a computer on every desk.
Yep,
That particular statement, and here's how we're going to do it, right?
exactly.
Steve Jobs came out with, I think it was iPhones, and he said, hey, I want to have a walking device that plays music in every person's hand, right?
Yeah,
But your vision or mission, if we take it out of the business world and throw it in the sports world, I remember an interview with Michael Phelps. He's been amazed to me because you and I both love to swim. And that's some
yep,
interesting fact that David and I have in common is we both love to swim. Michael Phelps kind of caught my eye because he made a statement that I want to be the most decorated medalist. And he did. That was his vision. That was his mission. Now, how did he do it? Is he worked his tail off, right, to get that point. Had great coaching, and he had some genetics there. But anyways, he worked his tail off to get to that point. So, vision and mission is, if I can recap that, where we're going and kind of what we're going to do to get there. Is that fair?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then the next step is really doing the SWOT analysis for all 8 key areas of the business. So SWOT analysis is just simply what are the strengths of the business? What are some of our weaknesses? And, opportunities. This, as Justin mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we are actually at the beginning of a great period of opportunity. I know it's hard to think of it that way, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity. There is now, and there will be in the future. And then what are threats to our business? Obviously, this COVID has been a threat to our business. But we're going to come out of that, and how we seize those opportunities is going to be important. So that's really the kind of the concept of SWOT. And folks, these terms sound kind of ominous and difficult to accomplish, but it's really not. It's simply just sitting down with a piece of paper and writing out what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we do that in 8 core areas of the business. One is planning. How do you plan the business? What are my plans this year that's going to help me accomplish what I want to get accomplished? Leadership. How are we structured? How are we going to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish with the team that we have? What kind of steps do we need to take in sales to accomplish the plan? How are we going to market the plan? Are there any people that we need to add to the business? The operations of the business, which is the heart and soul, obviously. How are we going to get these things accomplished in a very real and practical way? And then how are we going to finance these things? And finally, obviously, we want to do these things legally. We want to make sure that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing our T's and doing things the right way, which ties back to our core values.
So while David was going through that list, and I'm going to go through it again one more time, I had the team upload a blog article that we've actually written on how to increase your business value through a SWOT analysis. And we give a step-by-step approach to that. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and look in the comment section below, and there's a link there that you can jump off of when we're done and look at that SWOT analysis process. If you're listening to this via the podcast, we'll put that link in the show notes below so that, again, you can go to the SWOT analysis. But let me just repeat what David just said to make just as a second iteration of that. A SWOT analysis is simply looking at your business through the eyes of your competitor or through the eyes of your team, not yours, on how the business is structured. What are the strengths of your businesses? What is the weakness of your business, the opportunities of your business, and the threat? The way I do it, guys, I draw like a big cross on a sheet of paper, and I put 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So on each quadrant, think the top left, for those of you who are not looking visually, the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. I want to write the numbers 1 through 3, and I want to list out 3 things that I'm strong in. Those are my strengths. 3 things that I'm weak in. 3 things that are opportunities for me, and 3 threatening points for the business through the eyes of my competitor, not through my eyes, right? Because all of us, we realize our babies are never ugly. I mean, it's our baby. We put blood, sweat, and tears in. How dare you tell me my business needs help? As a SWOT analysis, we want to attack it as if our competitors are looking at this and they're saying, hey, we're going to dominate you and take over your market share. So as we look at a SWOT analysis, we want to look at it in those 8 key areas. David mentioned the 8. So here we go again. Planning, leadership, sales, marketing, people, operations, finance, and legal. So we're going to move past this point, but I'm going to tell you that inside the comments and inside the show notes, you're going to be able to get a direct blog post and some help, some downloadable helps that'll help you go through the SWOT analysis here for yourself. What you're going to be, the disadvantage to you is you don't have someone on the other side of you who does this regularly, who knows how to interpret and how to guide you. So this is where business advisors actually come into play. And this is kind of a little self-promotion, but it's the reality of the situation. Most of the successful people in the country have coaches, and a coach can look at your weaknesses. They can tell you that you're not swimming properly, right? Like Michael Phelps was. So this is how we work, is we watch clients do a SWOT analysis. But then after we do the SWOT analysis and it tells us our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, what comes next, David, in this process of strategic planning?
Yeah, so now that we know what we know about the SWOT, we want to identify 3 key objectives for the year. These are big goals for the year. This is a 12 to 18 month goal. These are things that we have to accomplish. Generally, it always begins with sales. You want to accomplish some type of financial goal. It could be increased profits, but it has to be some sort of a financial goal. And then 2 other areas within the business out of those 8 key areas. So it could be marketing, it could be sales, it could be operations, which is what I do a lot with our customers. So those are the 3 key objectives. We write those objectives down, and then we discuss, okay, how are we going to accomplish these 3 objectives? So we choose 3 tactics per objective. And we say, okay, what are the 3 things that we have to do for us to be able to reach this financial goal, for instance, or for us to create a marketing plan, or to create an operating plan? And then under each of those tactics, we're going to create 3 actions. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. This is where we say, okay, this is how we're going to achieve this tactic. This is when we're going to accomplish it by, and this is who is going to be responsible for getting it done. So that we can always go back to that and check our progress and update our progress and ensure that we receive and achieve the types of things that we want to accomplish with those 3 key objectives.
So there's this years ago, David, I was riding through an old farm country with my dad as we were going hunting, and I looked out across this field, and there was this pond that was just covered with duckweed. It's like a green slime, like a lime green slime.
Yeah.
We've all seen that, right? So what happens is that the pond gets stagnant in that hot summertime, and nothing really stirs the water, and so the weed comes across, and it just covers the pond. It doesn't look good. What happens is information without application leads to stagnation, right? I've heard that years ago. Information. We get a lot of information day to day. If we don't apply it, then we become stagnant in our business. So by looking at the objectives, those 3 big rocks, as I often say, we look at our 3 big things we want to hit. That's the informational point. We know what we need to do. Now we got to apply it, right? So the application there comes from the tactics. How are we going to accomplish each of those big rocks? And now we have 3 little tactics that we're going to do to drive that 1 point home, right? Then once we know our tactics, then we get into who is going to do it, when are they going to do it, the details. And that's where we say without responsibility, there's no accountability, right? So unless we delineate down who is to do what and when are they going to accomplish this objective, we use the term SMART, the SMART type of goals in that particular area. Once we know what they have to accomplish and when they're going to accomplish, ultimately at the end of that 3-step process, the objectives, the tactics, and the action, we end up with 27 specific action items that guide that business through a calendar year or an 18-month process to move them materially from where they're at to where they need to be. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you are. And really the next step then, once you know these 27 steps, you're going to prioritize the objectives. So you have 3 big objectives, and the SWOT analysis that you've already performed is going to help you identify what are the key, how am I going to go about approaching these objectives? And because we're applying timelines to these things, and the SWOT analysis will help us know, okay, what do we need to do first to move the needle the most for the business? And many times it's financial, but sometimes it's not. There may be operational improvements that need to take place that will help the business become much more organized and streamlined to be able to produce the profits. So maybe the operational goals are first, but basically we take the 3 key objectives and we say, what is the first priority, the second priority, and the third priority? And then we begin to build the plan based on that.
Okay, so let me recap thus far, because we need hit one more point here before we jump off today. So let's just recap, just for people who are jumping in and off at this particular point. So what we're talking about is strategic planning, and the strategic planning process that we use with our clients on an annual basis and guide them through this, which is how you've heard me say on the podcast, we like to help our clients double their net worth every 3 to 5 years. This is one of the tools we use out of many different techniques that we use. So the process that we use is we start off with the values of the company. That is what makes the company what it is. What drives the company to be who it is, and what drives you, the owner of the company. Then we deal with the mission and the vision. Where are we going and how are we going to get there? Then we look at a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then we break down those weaknesses or opportunities or threats or strengths into objectives, 3 big objectives for a 12 or 18-month period. And for each one of those objectives that we want to hit, whether it be I want to increase sales by X number of dollars, I want to develop a fully written marketing plan, I want to do a complete employee turnover, whatever it may be. Once we know our 3 objectives, then we deal with the tactics. How are we going to accomplish that? And finally, who and when is it going to be accomplished by? That is the strategic planning process. At this point, though, David, I'm a business owner saying, holy cow, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's no way I can get that done today. How in the world do you and does the Heritage Business Advisors and Heritage Investors, how do they walk clients through that much work to help them accomplish their ultimate goals?
Well, you use this analogy a lot, and how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's basically what we're doing here. We're saying, okay, these are all of the key steps that we have to take to accomplish what we want to try to get accomplished this year. We prioritize the objectives, and now we have to create specific strategies for each of our priorities. And that's the fun part. That's where I work with each of our clients weekly, monthly, to help them determine, okay, we tried this, that's not working, we need to change it, let's do this. And that's the strategy part of applying these objectives, this planning process. But it's a step-by-step process. It's an opportunity for you to revisit and go back to and revise if need be, so that you can stay on track, so that at the end of the year or the end of that 18-month period, whatever it is, you can look back and say, okay, this is what I set out to do, and this is what we've accomplished. And you may not accomplish all of it, but you're going to accomplish most of it.
So let me just repeat what I just heard. So oftentimes we'll start with a very detailed meeting. Sometimes when we go abroad, when we go out of the office, and we do this quite frequently with our clients, we'll set up a day or 2 meeting with the own team, the business owners, to walk through the process. But then after that, we end up with weekly or biweekly or monthly meetings, depending on the engagement that we have been hired to do. Ultimately, we boil it down to a quarterly or an annual review to help drive that particular client success level. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's just a continual process improvement and working together on a regular basis and adapting our strategies to make sure that we accomplish the objectives and the tactics that we've set out. But we try to stay really true to what we originally planned. Those big rocks, that's what we felt that we had to accomplish for the year.
So guys, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you this last thought here that David just nailed on. As business owners, we often end up chasing our tails, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, and we end up chasing from one fire to the next. That's the reality of the situation. We start off of the week, and before you know it, it's Tuesday, and we haven't done anything we should have gotten done. And before you know it, a month's gone by. In fact, someone told me today get the opportunity to meet a client. I'm like, I just met them. They said, no, you met them a year ago. I'm like, holy cow, it's been a year. So life happens. The cool thing about a strategic planning process, and especially when you have a coach alongside you as a business owner, is they can hold you accountable. They can make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to reach the goals that you outlined for yourself in the time frame that you outlined. And so I want to challenge you as a business owner right now to go and look at the resources that are going to be listed in the show notes here on the podcast, on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere that you can hear the podcast. Take a look at the show and the tools there that we've already created. We've actually created these 3-4 years ago, but the information is still vital. Take a look inside the Facebook comments section. There's a couple of links down there that the team has uploaded or will be uploading for points inside written format, some tools that you can use during the strategic planning process. And ultimately, if you're like, man, I need help. We've had a ton of business owners who are dealing with the PPP loan, the 7B loans, what we call idle loans. They're dealing with the forgiveness portion. At the same time, they're trying to figure out the employees. I had one business owner, David, as we sign off here, that the entire crew circled around the business owner and said, fire us because we can make, quote, more money. Now, they weren't correct, but we can make more money on unemployment, not do anything than working. And he said, I'm not going to fire you. Then we'll quit when you don't get unemployment. So it was kind of an interesting little battle. So business owners, we have a lot on our plates right now. Man, now more than ever, what we're hearing is business owners saying, hey, I need help. I need some advisors who can come in and help me double my net worth every 3 to 5 years. It can be done. Now, it's not easy, but you can do that. If that's you, reach out to us through financiallysimple.com. You're meeting the colleagues through the various videos we're putting out. These are smart dudes and gals. These guys and gals are sharp, and they can help you. So I'm going to sign off by saying, look, I realize that life is hard. I realize that, but life is good. David, we smelled some roses today. I smelled some roses, you know?
That's right.
Life is good. Life can be frustrating. It can be. None of us thought we were going to be dealing with what we're dealing with now back in January, early February. None of us thought that. Life can be frustrating. But money, business, doesn't have to be. Let our team, let's make your life at least financially simple. From David and I and all the colleagues, my friends here with Heritage Advisors and Heritage Investors, Heritage Business Advisors, y'all go out and make it a great day. Y'all be safe.